Okay, so welcome back to the Delphian School. You are back live with our series of webinars, and I am Thomas Keel. If you've been here before, you've met me. And in fact, if you've been here from the beginning, you have done some part or the majority of the webinar I'm going to re-offer today, which is called Who Makes the World Run? This one was really enjoyed when we did it before. And I'm going to go over the same sequence and the same learning guide. But in the first webinar, I did shorten things and took out some of the text from the learning guide. And we also used an example that had to do with electricity. In a later week, when I do the second or third part, we're going to use an example that has to do with a very famous, at least from my day, a little bit less now, a famous clothing store called the Gap store. Some of you may have heard about that before. So welcome. Looks like we have a little over 20 or more people are participating today in this webinar. We'll give you a couple minutes to finish signing in and getting ready to go. I hope for those that are new that you'll find this really exciting. Obviously, the title, Who Makes the World Run, tells you about people and our relationship and the way that we work together as a team to get things done in this world. But you'll find out more about that when we get into the learning guide. Just to remind you, Thomas Keel, I've been teaching at the school for about 15, 16 years, and then about 7 years ago, I moved over to work in admissions. I help advise kids at the school, but mostly I travel and inform families about what we're doing at the Delphian School. But it's a real pleasure for me to do this webinar, and also during this time of a little bit less action in the area of admissions, I'm getting the pleasure of helping students in and around the school as well. All right, so with no more need, let's get started. We're going to use this guide, Who Makes the World Run. So hopefully you've printed this and you can use this today, and I'll guide you with what we're going to do all along the way if you don't have it printed. All right, so let's go now to the textbook itself, and I'm going to read from this learning guide, the first couple of pages. And it's got a little bit of text, so we'll take it kind of steady and slow, okay? So here we go, and I'm going to read from here. So introduction. For many millions, life in the modern society can be pretty good. There are things to entertain us like TV, movies, music, sports, and games of all kinds. Bicycles to ride, electronic devices to play with, or use, concerts to attend, and even places to hike. Yeah. There are things that make life much easier than it was for our grandparents or their grandparents, such as cars, nice highways, jet airplane, travel, computers, smartphones, the internet, etc. Modern comforts include air conditioning, food and drink of endless variety, advanced medical care, online shopping with almost anything imaginable, shipped to you overnight, and many, many other things that make just living much easier and more comfortable. Today you guys have Amazon and other things, but to be honest, when I was growing up, we didn't have that kind of shopping delivery experience. Also, to remind you, by the way, before I continue, make sure to put your hellos and your assignments in the question and answer box. I'm sure many of you who have attended before know that. But if there's anybody new, put your essays and different things in the question and answer box as we go along, okay? Not in the chat. And no matter what you want to do, there are probably tools, things used to get things done to help you. For example, there are millions of books to learn from, computer programs to help you do almost anything, and devices of all sorts to help you get things done. Just to make the point about how many there are, imagine for a moment the life of the caveman. About the only thing in the list above that was available was places to hike. And even then, there might be a good chance of being killed by some other person or wild animal while out hiking. The point is that in the long time span from then to now, this huge supply of things that makes our lives easier has come into existence. All right, so we can even see that these things are just there, ready to make our lives more pleasant, and that life consists of using and enjoying them. But how did this enormous supply of nice things come to be? Okay, good. So now we're going to do your first assignment, okay? Your first assignment. So let's pull out of here. If you have the learning guide, you'll be able to follow along with me. And otherwise, I'm going to tell you what the assignment is, then ask you to put it in the question and answer, okay? So we're going to do a little activity. I want you to make a list of 5 items. The learning guide says many more, but just 5. Make a list of 5 items you can see in your environment that contribute to your pleasure, comfort, or ability to do things you want to do. So take 5 items that you see around you in the house right now, or that you know of, that contribute to your pleasure, comfort, or ability to do things you want to. Then, once you've done that, there's a second step. I want you to rewrite the list in the order of the most valuable to you. So if you've got these 5, and in fact, if you want to do it both together, you can, but it's find 5 things and then rewrite them in the order that is the most valuable to you. The top of the list would be items you find hardest to give up, like you must have those and you need them to survive. And the items on the bottom would be the ones that you could most easily do without if you had to, like your cellular phone, ha ha ha, or something of that nature, right? Okay, great. So let's go into now the question and answer, and we'll get busy. I'm sure I've got some hellos, and then we'll start to get your assignments in there. Those of you who have been with me, you know I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read better. All right, well, hello, Lorna. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Yes, Isis, welcome. And Tom, welcome too. And someone said, Ethan said, at first I thought about the government. Okay, very good. And Hadia from Pakistan. My goodness. Well, you must be on a different time schedule, right? All right, so here is Layla. Layla says books. Books. Okay, good. Now go for 5 items. You're looking for 5 items. And someone said bed. Hadai said bed. Very true. You need that item. So think of 5, and then you can also put them in the sequence that you think most valuable to least valuable. Hello to Hartley. Hey, Hartley, how you doing? I might talk to your dad later today. Welcome, welcome. And Lila Wilson. Sorry if I have that pronounced wrong. Nice to have you here. Okay, so Milo says chairs, computers, lamps, refrigerator, paper. Excellent, excellent, excellent answers, Milo. I'm not sure if that lists in the order of most priority, but chairs are definitely needed, that's for sure, or else you couldn't sit. Hello, Tom from Oregon. Nice to have you here and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hadaya says, my computer, bed, chair, and fan. So I'm thinking that computer is the most important there, and probably so because we need it for schoolwork and we need it for different things. Oh, well, actually, she says, Hadaya says, most important, my bed. Very good point, because if you can't sleep, you can't really think well. And if you can't think well, you can't take advantage of the different things you could do on your computer. All right, so keep your answers coming in. I'm caught up with you. So Isabella, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get a couple more answers to the question. The question is, and here they come, Hartley's got one. So the question is, 5 items you see in your environment that are necessary, contribute to your pleasure, comfort, or ability to do things, and then list them in the order of importance, like which one must you have and you can't do without, and then towards the bottom, which ones would be least important. So Hartley says water, excellent. Food, bed, phone, and air conditioning. I agree with that. I agree with that. And Lila, or Lila, L-E-I-L-A, sorry if I don't pronounce it right, says books, a stove, sewing machine, showers, and my computer. Great answers, very great answers. You know, sewing machine, we don't think of it much anymore, but such a useful tool to keep things in order around the house. Ethan, food, puzzles, board games, pillows, and pencils. Agreed with all of those, by the way. Great answers. And here is Milo says, refrigerator, paper, chairs, computers, and lamps. Refrigerator, very important, because how could we eat and keep our food safe and good to eat? And here is a great answer from, what a unique name, Gayatri. So water, food, bed, home. Excellent answers. And Tom says house and food as possibly the most important, right? Tom says house and food. Agreed with you. You need a place to live. Pronounced Layla. Thank you very much for the help, by the way. Appreciate that. All right, and here we have Olivia. Olivia says family, friends, house, water, and food. Great, actually. I never thought of that. You're talking about people now as opposed to things. I like that, actually. And we surely cannot live without family. Okay, Isis says jacket, mechanical pencil, books, shoes, phone to talk to the friend. And Jack says in this order, computer, bed, fridge, dog, and light. So we've got a lot of answers, all excellent answers. Similar. It's interesting how you guys have similar ones. It would make sense that you would, because we all have similar things we need to survive. All right, so and Tom says family, house, food, water, something to keep you warm. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And Lila says ladders are also important. I agree, for changing lights, for getting up to the top of the house, etc. Okay, guys, so excellent. Very well done. I'm going to actually now sign off for me and you on my little learning guide, both of those steps right there. And we're going to move on to now reading the next section. And if there's more answers coming in, which I'm sure there will be, Andrew says car, oven, fireplace. Excellent answers. Milo, you said you're raising your hand. If you need to say something, just please do it in the question and answer period, and we'll get it addressed there, okay? All right, and then Tom says the most important thing is rules. Well, I guess that's true. We would call those laws. So if you need me for something, please just put it in the question and answer period. All right, so here we go. We're gonna move on now to the next section of our learning guide here. You ready? So building our things. This is gonna be a little bit of a longer explanation. Goes over a really cool example that has to do with the bicycle and the wheels. Step by step, over hundreds of thousands of years, individual people have come up with things to improve life. Maybe it was a better tool, a better way to build a house, a better way to keep food around so you didn't have to hunt all the time, a better way to agree with your fellows, not to steal from each other or hurt each other. Or maybe it was a better way to travel from one place to another, a way to communicate in writing, a way to catch or create electrical energy, a way to use electricity to communicate with others, a way to make it safer to go on a hike, and so forth. Amazing how many different ideas, activities, inventions, and pleasures we have. Each time someone took a step that improved life, they made it possible for someone else to discover another step that improved life a little more. Of course, there are thousands of examples of this, and trying to imagine all the small and large improvement steps for all those examples is enough to make your head spin. Just think about the bicycle for a moment. How did we get to have bicycles? Here's a list of just a few of the steps. And we went over these last time, but I'm going to add a couple more that we didn't discuss. 1, somebody wanted to move something heavy and had the idea that with a round object under it, an item could be moved more easily by pushing it and letting the round object roll under it. Basic physics, right? 2, people made better and better round objects. 3, a wheel is a round object, but it isn't a wheel until it has an axle. And we all know an axle is the thing in between wheels that help it to spin. That it has an axle in the middle that holds still while the wheel turns. Someone had the bright idea that an axle in the middle of a round object really made it more useful, and a simple axle was invented, the birth of the wheel. The axle didn't work very well, and someone thought of a way to make it better. Already, we have probably skipped hundreds or thousands of steps in between. All the little inventions and projects that people did in between there. 5, someone put 2 wheels on the same axle with the box in between and made a 2-wheeled cart that didn't fall over all the time, the way 1-wheeled carts did. Meanwhile, someone else got the idea of catching a big animal and training it to pull the cart, like a horse and a chariot. But that's a different story with all its own steps. 6, someone put 2 axles under a big box, one at either end, and made a wagon with 4 wheels, and someone figured out how to make it steerable. At this point, something even stranger happens. Someone decided to hook 1 wheel in front of another and see if it could be ridden down a little hill without falling over. Maybe it was a game. Maybe it was serious. It doesn't matter. This person had just created the first ancestor of the modern bicycle. So you get that we went from like a wheel to a wheel with axles to a wagon to now the full, semi-modern bicycle, huh? 8, since a rider couldn't just go downhill all the time, someone had the idea of putting a crank on 1 wheel so the vehicle could be powered by foot. We just left out all the steps required to get cranks to work well. 9, tired of being shaken to pieces on these contraptions, and a contraption is a kind of a word for like some kind of invention or some kind of machine that helps you do work. So tired of being shaken to pieces on these contraptions with their hard wheels, someone invented rubber tires. Imagine how many steps that took. Tired of running into barns, haystacks, ditches, or other people in order to stop, someone invented brakes. That didn't work very well, but they were better than just crashing. 11, someone figured out better brakes. 12, since it didn't work very well to have the crank on the wheel, someone got the idea of using a chain, many more steps, and little wheels with teeth on them to work with the chain. You know how that works on the bike, right? So the crank could be located more comfortably in between the wheels. Quite amazing, huh? 13, now we have arrived up to about the year 1880. You can just imagine the number of steps or improvement that have happened since then to get to a modern mountain bike or racing bike. If you look up history of the bicycle online, you can see some pictures of a few of the things we have talked about. Okay, a couple more paragraphs. Here we go. Other aspects of, right here. That was a very short version of a very long story with more steps in it than would be easy to count. Even if some of the people involved did several steps, the story surely involves thousands and thousands of people all working more or less on the same project, even if they didn't think of it that way. They were each just doing their thing. But in fact, they were cooperating, working together in the creation of today's bike. And that was just one item of modern life, the bicycle. Think for a moment about the people involved in development of the airplane, a smartphone, an electric car, and so on. Wow. All right, so that's a lot to think about, but the idea is we're trying to get into the idea of these inventions and what goes into them to make them what we see today, but also not just what goes into them, but how many people are involved in creating them? How many people are involved in creating them? Tom, yes, I know that you've heard this before. You know, I tried to make it clear when I started. This is a redo of a webinar that we did early on when we first started doing webinars at Delphi. So I do hope you can learn something new. Sometimes when you go over something more than once, you get something else out of it, or you get a new perspective, or you learn something you didn't learn the first time, which I think is pretty exciting. All right, so now what we're going to do is the next activity. I'm going to give it to you, and you can put it in the question and answer box here. So it's pick out one item that you listed in step 2 above. So in step 2, you listed 5 items that you thought were important to you or necessary or gave you pleasure in some way. And then you had your most important one. So you could take the most important or any one from your list. Pick one item that you listed above. Make a list of at least 3 to 5 steps that some person or combination of people had to accomplish to make it so that that item is now available to you in its current form. So we need to do like 13 or 100, but pick an item, whether it's the refrigerator, the bed, the phone, and break it down now to think of 3, 4, 5, 6, if it comes to mind, steps that occurred in history up to now to make this convenience or item available to you to use, okay? So you guys go ahead and do that, and we'll discuss them when they come into the question and answer box here, okay? Really nice to have everybody here, by the way. Such a pleasure to be back and such a pleasure to do this with you today. Just making a little note on my learning guide here. So what we're looking for is taking one of those items that you picked in the earlier assignment, and you're going to break down now the steps involved earlier to make it possible for you to have that item there today. Like, so the refrigerator, how did it start? With ice in a hole in the ground? Or actually maybe just a hole with the coldness outside their cave. You know, how did they keep something cold or their food cold so it wouldn't rot? A little bit tougher back in the day than today. All right, so as you guys get your answers here, we'll discuss them with the group. So I'll just wait for those in the question and answer box, okay? Okay, just checking where we're at, how we're going. All right, smart kids, students, let's toss out those great answers. Get them coming here. And as soon as they arrive, I'll discuss them with you. So to make sure you understand the assignment, right, we're taking one of the things that you picked earlier in your list of 5 things in your environment that give you pleasure, comfort, or the ability to do something in everyday life. And we want to take one of those now and break down 3, 4, 5, 6 steps that some person or combination of people had to create, or what they had to do to make that possible for you. All right, here we go. So a little more work. Here comes Jack. Thank you, Jack. Someone thought that they wanted to make a more comfortable place to sleep. They had to figure out what design would be the best. They had to figure out what materials would be the best. They tested all the prototypes, and prototypes are different samples of those inventions. They made the best bed they could. Excellent, excellent. And also, Jack, if you think about it, right, way back when, the bed was simply like a blanket that we threw down on the ground, right? Or a small pad. And then later on came padding within, you know, maybe within the blanket. It was sealed up and zipped up. And then later came the springs underneath, right? And then I think even later after that probably was not only the top mattress where we lie on, which is kind of soft, but then we have the box spring underneath. And then even later came a pad. People started to make foam pads, let alone water beds, right? Fascinating to think about, right? Gayatri says, dresses, school, family, dancing, bed. Okay, got it. Excellent. Olivia says, a cave, tent, then the house. So now we're talking about a place to live, huh? Very good, Olivia. So first was the cave, then later was a tent. Could even be like some kind of a tarp just to keep the rain out. I've heard of, then you have the house. Yeah, and the house, of course, the modern house is very advanced. But how about before that was just the cabin? You know, the cabin, which was just kept the wind out and kept the rain out. And then eventually came the floor in the cabin, right? So these things really do develop over time in a unique way. All right, still waiting for some more answers. Great, here comes Isis, the books. Originally, people painted on walls. This is like before the book. Then I think the Egyptians made the scroll. Excellent. Someone made a book because their scrolls kept ripping. Yeah, that's true. And if you think about it, so here came the book, which was pages of writing, more than one scroll or connected. And then later came the printing. But before that came different in ways to sort of make and press what you wrote to make another copy of it as well. But the printing press was a huge invention. And imagine that. So that advanced books being available for everybody. But what went into the invention of the printing press itself? Quite fascinating. Excellent example, Isis. Okay, we want some more examples here. They're coming through. Milo. So Milo says computer. Someone maybe needed to have a way to get information. Someone invented technology, yeah, like programming. You know, when I was your age, Milo, we had something called the Radio Shack 2000. The only computer that I remember, this giant, big computer where we would type, for the typewriter, after the typewriter came this, and we would type little essays on it, and we did very basic programming on it as well. Someone invented technology, and they developed a way to create the web. Exactly. The web is a unique modern-day invention which enabled us all to access technology from one, I guess you'd say, central location, now in the cloud as well, huh? All right, let's see if we can give a couple more minutes for a couple more examples. We've still got 20 minutes left, and I have one more thing for sure I want to cover today. So we're on schedule, and if we get ahead of schedule, we'll just move further along. All right, anybody else want to shoot in here? Here comes one. So, Leila, for books, someone wanted to put down information. Someone had to find thin material. Finding a way to bind the material together, I agree. Finding a way to put the knowledge actually on the paper. And 5, eventually, making the printer to make a copy of books. Excuse me, I just need to take a sip. Very good. Very good, Leila, description and details. I really appreciate it. Here comes another good one. Ethan, pencils were created in this way. Someone decided they wanted a way to write. First, they tried using lead. Then they discovered that lead is poisonous. Then they tried using charcoal, but they discovered that this doesn't exactly work well either. Finally, they decided that they would use wood and graphite. Excellent, the wood, the graphite inside. Certainly, they wanted to get rid of the mistakes. They figured out a way to use rubber to get rid of the graphite marks. Great description, Ethan. Very well thought out and very detailed, makes very clear. For something as simple, this is not the pencil, but for something as simple as this, in pencil form, all of these steps done to make that work. Okay, guys, well, I'll read another example if it comes through. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to another big section called Other Aspects of Life, and then one activity that we're going to do there as well. Let me just get through here. Make sure we're on this, how the team plays. Yes, exactly. Good. So we're going to read the next section because it's not that short. Make sure we can cover it well. Here we go. All right. So, other aspects of life. This is a little long, so hang in there with me. It just isn't things that got developed. Let's go back to the idea of a hike for a moment. Imagine back to times when people lived in small groups. Now imagine the different groups were somewhat hostile, like fighting and angry at each other, attacking and fighting each other. Perhaps most of the people actually wanted to live peacefully, but some preferred to live by violence and stealing. This kind of thing is a pretty common story in the history of humankind. In an environment like that, you can imagine that taking a hike was a pretty risky business. How did it get to the way it is now, where hikes are pretty safe from violent groups of people wanting to whack you over the head and take your stuff? The development of what we call today, which today we call law and order, and a fairly safe environment, including respect for other people's lives and belongings, is a big improvement. Getting as far as we have toward creating a safer environment is such a huge development that it makes the development of the bicycle look pretty simple in comparison. In other words, the development of law and order has involved the help of many more people than the bicycle did, and over huge territories of the earth. You could spend years just trying to list these steps and it would still be incomplete. But here are a few just for illustration. 1, an agreement among people that a person created, caught, or grew, what he created, caught, or grew belonged to him or her personally, to control as desired by that person. This is such a difficult development to achieve that lots of people on earth, even now, don't have this agreement. We're just talking about trust and honesty and not stealing. Just imagine the number of people that have worked to get such an agreement among people. 2, the idea of writing down laws so that everyone can be treated the same instead of people just making up rules as they go along. You could almost tell the story of humankind by just talking about the different sets of laws, often referred to as codes of laws, that have been made up to try to establish law and order. These ideas and codes were created by individuals or groups cooperating with each other, working together to solve some situation where people weren't getting along. Often individuals and groups worked to improve rules other groups had tried earlier. This goes all the way back, right? This is a history of lawmaking where laws didn't exist, or something very basic in caveman days, and then came forward, but then they were trying to get things so that everybody got treated well, and therefore laws became a law. In a way, these later groups were cooperating with groups that had tried to solve similar problems at an earlier time and often in a different part of the world. Having judges, number 3, having judges who could be impartial, fair, not choosing sides, in settling disputes, crimes, and punishments was an important development. It meant that the judges didn't have something to gain for themselves by deciding one way or the other. We call this like a fair trial today, right? They could be fair to both sides. Good people the world over have worked on this for a very long time and are still working on it. Some places have it and some do not. And so on. So take a moment and consider the number of people working one way or another to bring these improvements to humankind. Without these people, it might still be dangerous to take that hike, and a lot of other things would also be very dangerous. Getting law and order in a safe environment is something we all want. But like other things, it has to be created step by step by good people having ideas and making improvements one step or a few steps at a time. These are examples of improvements to life that aren't just things or objects. Many, many such examples exist. Consider music and what a huge collection of ideas about music have been developed and collected over the years. The list of these sorts of improvements and developments is probably as long as the list of things or objects that have been developed. Okay, great. So the last little section here called Your Team. We're going to read that now. We have barely scratched the surface of this subject, but the overall point is that we have the lifestyle we have today as a result of the contributions over a long period of time by an enormous number of people. All of this collection of tools, comforts, protections, ideas, rights, freedoms, and ways of doing things that these people have helped bring about is what we call our culture. Let me just read that again. All of this huge collections of tools, comforts, protections, ideas, rights, freedoms, and ways of doing things that these people have helped bring about is what we call our culture. The poet Robert Frost said in a beautiful short poem, The Tuft of Flowers, "Men work together, I told them from the heart, whether they work together or apart. Whether its members know it or not, humankind is a team that has been put together, that has put together the cultures we have. Perhaps you hadn't thought about it before, but this is your team. You are already on this team and you will benefit from it, and no doubt you will contribute to it as you move on with your life." Okay, so now we're going to move to the next assignment and pick up any of your other additional work. So very fascinating to think about. Those of you that did this webinar before, I hope your thoughts are going deeper. Those of you that are new to the webinar, so we will now do the next assignment. So those of you that are new to the webinar, I hope that it's giving you some nice ideas. And Isis says, will you do another class to finish this? Yes, the question is, we're only going to go into one section today, and then next week at the same time, I will do another class to continue on with these assignments, okay? All right, so here you go. So the activity is, think of something in our culture or environment that you might want to contribute to the improvement of. Even if you don't know right now how you might do it, write down in a sentence or two, in a short paragraph with me, what is this thing? So now we're going to connect. Here you are today. You're younger. You're in school. I'm older. I've been to school. I've been teaching or doing admissions work for many years. So I'm improving the world of kids, the world of families, the world of education by my actions. For you, think of one thing in the cultural environment that you might want to contribute to the improvement of. What do you want to do? What would you like to change? What would you like to be a part of when you get older? What team would you like to contribute to that's making a difference? And how you might do it. Write down your thoughts about it in a sentence or two, okay? So this is your, Ethan, if you need something, just put it in the question and answer, please, instead of the hand raising, okay? Okay, good, guys. So this will be your last big challenge for the day. Let me see. Yeah, because of the time, we'll do is we'll milk this assignment for as much as it is. We'll discuss it for the next 5+ minutes, and then we'll wrap up from there, okay? Folks who's raising their hands, just put what you need in the question and answer period. Okay, here comes some nice answers. Olivia, have no homeless people. Beautiful. How can I say? Beautiful. Wouldn't that be lovely? I know that it's hard when we go around the world and our cities and we see that. We want to help them and do something about it. That's a beautiful thing to contribute to, and I hope you get the chance to do that. Whether you do it full-time or even if you do it part-time by simple contributions while you're doing another profession. A very warm thing to be able to be a part of. No worries, Ethan. Apology accepted. Don't even worry about it. Okay, so what I'm looking for now is your examples of one thing in the culture or environment that you might want to contribute to the improvement of. What do you want to change? What do you want to make? What do you want to do as you get older? And write down your thoughts. What would this be? What do you want to do about it? Like Olivia, you said homeless. Great. Is there something specific you want to do? Do you want to feed them? Do you want to help them get jobs? Do you want to just raise the awareness? Do you want to go to a third world country and deal with the homelessness that's there? Or are you looking at in your backyard, right in your very own city? Feel free to think about it, and then you can share those thoughts with me for this assignment. This gives you a chance to tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you want to do and how you might want to be a part of some activity later on. Ethan would like to improve peace, create more world peace. Okay. Wow, Ethan, that's a big concept and a big activity. Is there anything specific about that you want to do? Do you want to work for the United Nations? Do you want to be a politician? Would you like to be a writer and raise people's awareness? There's so many different ways that could be done, right? Milo says, I would like to be a paleontologist to be able to improve our knowingness about dinosaurs and support things like schools so kids can learn more. That's incredible. Do you think you would take your knowledge of dinosaurs and your job as a paleontologist and bring that into the school arena, Milo? Like as a teacher or a professor or an educator of some sort? Really nice, though. Really nice interest. Olivia wants to help the homeless by giving them homes and jobs. Excellent, 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 excellent. In Portland, we have this group that sells newspapers on the streets. And I often like to buy from them because they're homeless or they're jobless. And they're selling the newspapers for $1 or $2 to raise money. Every once in a while, I'll find myself giving them an extra $1 for their good efforts. It's a nice way to help. Andrew says, I want to help in healthcare. Excellent, Andrew. Excellent. Do you think you're going to be a doctor or a nurse or a something like that? I'm just curious. Thank you, Andrew, but very good. Ethan says, I'd like to help people who have been put out of a job with machines to get them another job. Not being productive. A lack of production is insanity. Wow, that's beautiful, Ethan. Yeah, so you're talking about it's a positive in some ways that modern technology gives us machines that make certain jobs easier, right? Whether it be the assembly line or creating a phone, certain things that machines can do that people used to have to. However, that puts people out of jobs and you want to help find more jobs for them. I love it. Lila, I'd like to help people having access to the arts, making it easier for people to discover the enjoyment of doing something creative. Wow, that's fascinating. So how would you do that? Have you thought about that? Like being a teacher or just an art teacher or opening up maybe an art school of some kind? My daughter is a graduate of the arts from Pratt University in Brooklyn. So she loves arts and she loves sculpture. Andrew says oral surgeon. Nice. Very, very nice. Great way to contribute, huh? Great, great way to contribute. All right, guys, I know there's a few more of you thinking your answers. I'd love you to share them because I think I'd like to wrap this up and not go deep into the next section. We're going to do that the next week. As you can see, we're about to finish section A of the learning guide. So if you printed out Who Makes the World Run, and you've been following along with me, we're now just about to finish step 6. And the next class, which will be the Monday following this, next Monday at the same time, we will do section B. Will we do section C too? No, probably just section B next week as well. So more answers. What would you guys like to do? What would you guys like to change? Gayatri, I may be pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry. I love art. Well, that's good. That's good. So maybe you'll do something in that zone, huh? Layla says, being a teacher and opening up my own school. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. In the area of arts. You know, and there's so many different areas of arts. Layla, are you looking at, how can I say, music? Are you looking at, you know, painting, sculpture, drawing, writing? What are you looking at there? I'd be really curious. And then no name here, but says he would like to address the government and help them because right now there's certain violations of some of our rights, and there is a desire to get people vaccinated too much. I want to fix this. I want to improve this. And I also want my school to have a library. Okay, I think that's good. Books and ways to study are very, very good. Ethan says machines are fine. Machines are fine, but a philosopher Hubbard says that it's bad when they are replacing people doing those jobs, but not giving them a different job. Totally agree. I totally agree. You know, it's very important that people have work because work is production, which creates sanity. Yep. Layla says performance, mainly dance, but also things like singing and acting. Okay, good. Now I got it. That's a different but very valuable, unique kind of creative arts. Different when I say like the painting or drawing. Creative arts, very important. A lot of people love to get involved in creative arts. So if you were a teacher and had schools, that would be very good. Ethan says, I want to help children. They are the world's futures as we are. Very, very true, Ethan. So now here you are as coming as the next generation, and you are the future in the next generation. And then you, having your own children or helping kids learn, you'll then create the generation after that. And they are the future. Children are important and they are the future. Has a lot to do with why I chose 25 years ago to be a part of this profession, which is teaching and education. I love helping people. I love it, love it, love it. All right, we've got just a couple more minutes. If there's anybody else that wants to shoot an example, we'll take it up. So a couple of just wrap-up points to let you know. As I wrap this up, if you have any questions or you need to reach one of the teachers, you can always send an email into events@delphian.org. Remember that the learning guides and materials for these webinars have been sent by link to you if you're a participant, and you can also access things at heronbooks.com. Coming, by the way, after me are 2 webinars. One is by Sterling and another by Corey. One is by Sterling and another by Corey. So be ready for that. I think the Sterling one will probably be at 1:15 or 1:30. And then Ethan says, I also like to write stories. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, guys, well, we're going to give you a minute or two here just to wrap up any of your final assignments. And this last assignment, of course, is something in your environment that you think you would like to contribute to. Something that you could make better or something that you could change in the world. Pretty much like, where are you going? You know, really the question is, what are you looking at in terms of work or profession? What do you think you want to do when you get older? And how can you make the world either a better place, or what kind of activity, invention would you like to work on? Could be a lawyer. You know, we use the example of law and order and how the laws and judges make a difference there. So becoming a lawyer could be something you'd be interested in. Okay, guys, well, we're winding down here. So thank you for your participation today. We're going to break a couple minutes early so I don't dive into the next section. Loved having you. Looking forward to my next chance to do the second part of this, which will be next Monday. And in the meantime, have a great lunch and make sure you're ready for, oh, here come 2 more or 3 more examples. We're going to do this, but make sure you're ready for the next webinar. So librarians should get paid more. I agree. They do a very, very useful job. Ethan says, can you make it rain less in Florida? Well, that's very funny to think about. I don't know if you can, but the question is, can you capture the rain or make the rainwater more useful? Andrew, no littering. Let's do something about the littering. Excellent, excellent. So how do you improve the waste? And then Olivia says, lessen the use of drugs. Agreed, agreed, agreed. That would be a great thing to do. There's lots of programs that you could be involved in, educational. There's also where you can actually help people get off drugs, or you could work for the health benefits of people. Goodbye, Isis, and goodbye, Gayatri. Very nice doing this. Okay, guys, so we artists should get more paid. I agree with you. I do agree with you, huh? All right, well, we're going to wrap up now. Thank you for all your examples, and hardly want to pay teachers more. Hey, that would be nice. I was a teacher for years. I could get paid more too. Wouldn't that be nice, huh? But it's very true, especially in the public schools. Those teachers can be underfunded. So great having you guys today. I'm going to sign off now, and I'm going to show you this screen. So have a great, great day.